Hey, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Chips and Tips podcast, episode 2. I am Ben Engel, the content manager here at Toolpath. And joined with me today are Pete Oxenham and Al Watmo. Tell us a little bit about what's going on at Toolpath.
You can kick it off, Al.
Uh,
We got something exciting.
it's almost kind of your news to share, but we're bringing Toolpath and Chatter together into one company. I'm
Yes,
obviously
sir.
excited about it, but I'm gonna kick it back to Pete to tell us a little bit about him and Chatter.
Yeah. So if you don't know me, my name's Pete Oxenham. I'm the founder of Chatter. Before that, I was a machine shop owner. And today my role is actually head of product at Toolpath. So that's my new job. And we just brought Chatter in as a part of Toolpath. And now I'm working with the team and I'm going to be over the entire product, both the estimating, CAM automation, and the connectivity part.
Yeah, I guess I didn't introduce myself, but I'm Al Wutmo and I'm CEO at Toolpath. I get to represent all these smart people.
So you've told us a little bit about Chatter. What exactly does this mean for Toolpath? I'm curious, why now? What are we looking to get out of Chatter and Toolpath coming together as one?
I mean, for me, and I guess if you don't know, I spent a decade on the Fusion team pulling CAD and CAM together. I've got a core belief that innovation, the speed of innovation, is limited only by the speed of communication. And when there's breaks in communication, that's where there's breaks in how quickly you can innovate. A decade ago, the primary challenge was the breaks between the CAD geometry and the toolpath. You can't really do toolpathing without CAD geometry. Today, and more recently, to me, the big breaks in the whole thing is the step from estimating to creating a program to getting it on a machine, and those are very broken. The estimate gets handed over to the programmer with some notes, and the program gets handed on to the shop floor with some notes, and it's all a one-way conversation. When the programmer changes everything that was in the estimate, seldom does that update how the next estimate happens. And when the operator changes things, seldom does that update the program. So for me, it's an opportunity to close that whole loop and have an end-to-end chain and have a conversation with the machine, not just a one-way dialogue with a machine, but create a conversation that will dramatically improve the speed that parts can get made at.
Yeah, I want to kind of add on to that. It's been an interesting journey with Chatter because when I started it, it was just in my shop as an internal tool. And it was really frustrating how all these IoT systems basically ended up just putting data on like charts, like for reporting. And I'm like, well, I'm a small shop. Okay, like tell me my spindle uptime at the end of the month. Great. Like I'm doing my best here. Like I need tools in real time that are actually helping. So we
They're
built
almost
in.
like vanity metrics.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you're CJ Abraham, in 99% uptime and 1% probing, sure, it's a vanity metric. Um, but basically, yeah, I was like, this needs to do a lot of the things that I'm doing in the shop on a day-to-day basis, like going over to machines, figuring out when they're going to be done, what tools are going to break when, communicating that to my guys on the shop floor. So I kind of distilled that down to the difference being like actually using that data to do something, not just reporting on it. So we started with just a few of these things that you could do in a shop, just to sort of, rather than measure those red periods on your chart, actually condense those down. And then I started thinking a little bit bigger as we, grew the product and grew the customer base. I'm like, what really can this data do? And it hit me that what a CAM programmer does is partially recognizing geometry, and clicking on a screen and selecting these things. But also, they're using their experience in the shop to actually inform the decisions that they're making about how to program the part, right? If I'm in my shop on an end shoe, I know exactly how to program the milled part. I know exactly the speeds and feeds. I know all these little details of how that machine is going to be able to run, what tool holders I have. There's no one size fits all approach. If I went over into one of my friend's shops, he's got a Brother Speedio, I'd have a lot of trouble bumbling my way around that. I wouldn't be able to get the most out of that machine. And Chatter's connected into this system, and you know, seeing what Toolpath was doing was actually pretty exciting. And then we got to talking, and basically it was like, man, like we can actually build something here that sort of becomes this living, breathing system where it's not just one way, right? It's not just automation down to the machine, and then that data and that experience is completely lost. That data and experience is now actually stored, and it informs the CAM engine to get better in any particular shop. So that's sort of that was the background conceptually of this whole thing, really. And then, we obviously recently Al became the CEO of Toolpath. And we were talking quite a bit and trying to figure out the timing. And then eventually, just a few months ago, it all kind of clicked. The timing came together, and now here we are. We pulled it off.
We did. Yeah, yeah. You picked on a couple things that were coming out in the conversation that I think are super interesting because um what I'm gonna go off on a bunch of tangents, Ben. So you might need to reel me back in.
Hey, that's what
But
podcasts are for, man.
That's okay.
He just sparked my maybe genius or maybe stupidity. Who knows? Two pieces here. One, a core belief in what you try and automate. You try and automate the mundane. I love thinking about an autopilot. When the autopilot came along, it automated the mundane tasks for the pilot, stick and rudder skills. It didn't make the pilot go away. It made the pilot become the navigator and think more broadly. And so, in many ways, what we're automating is the mundane to free the programmer up to do more. I say that because you might look at what Pete just talked about or what Justin and the core Toolpath team has built and think, well, that's why you automating picks and clicks and why you automating what I can look at and see what the machine is doing. That's kind of the mundane. But Pete, you dug on what a CAM system is. It really is quite simple. I think it kind of trigger what I'm talking about in the mundane. CAM simple's kind of three simple pieces. The core geometry that comes from CAD, the user is going to identify some geometry. And then to your point, Pete, they're going to enter parameters to meet the tolerances of that geometry. And if you think of any good programmer using a CAM system, they're almost not even thinking. And so they might even look at what we're doing with automation, think I can do that in my sleep. You watch them use Mastercam or Fusion or whatever, and they're not thinking about making selections. They're not thinking about entering parameters. They're just doing it intuitively and quickly. In the same way, the pilot wasn't really thinking about stick and rudder skills, but as soon as we automated them, the pilot got to start thinking about navigation. And so the same is true here. The more we can automate that feedback from the machine tool to get the parameters that get injected on top of the geometry selections, we're going to free the programmer up, I think, to be thinking about how do you make high tolerance parts and how do you want to attack a part to meet tolerance requirements, because we've shifted the cognitive load from what kind of is mundane but still consuming your thought to be automated enough you can think about the next thing. Maybe I didn't go on as much of a tangent as I thought I was going to.
It was all relevant.
I'm trying to get the hashtag going, less clicks, more chips. So if you guys keep using that,
Okay.
but that's really what we're trying to do here, right?
Yeah, but see, I think there's an irony in that too, that we think that automation makes the need for people go away or solves a skills gap problem. It actually creates a larger skills gap, but a higher set of productivity. And so nothing we're going to do is going to remove the need for a human. We're going to have the human making higher order decisions. The pilot is now the navigator thinking about how to avoid weather patterns. It's not that they're doing nothing. So I don't even like the idea of saying less clicks. You're going to be influencing the system just as much. You're just going to be influencing it at a higher elevation.
Yeah,
Less
I've always said
mundane
that
clicks.
yeah, automation is not a replacement, it's a multiplier. Like
Yeah.
I'll tweet that
Exactly.
out when I get crazy on Twitter, just in all caps, like
Yeah.
when I get upset.
So why don't you guys tell me? I think you've already kind of mentioned a little bit, but what are you most excited with this chatter and Toolpath coming together as one? I mean, it's Valentine's Day when we're releasing this. It's exciting. Love's in the air. What are you guys excited about?
I can go first, and then Pete can go. He might have some different answers. I'm excited and humbled and thrilled all at the same time. got to have a part of my career where influenced a pretty exciting change in our industry when I was working on fusion. This one I feel like is a chance to do something much bigger and much more impactful. Um, when I think about the various puzzle pieces we need to pull this off, we have the brains of the system. Justin and the core Toolpath team did that. Now, to me, we have the vision system. In many ways, the vision system and the nervous system. That's what Chatter has done. We have a good, strong relationship with ModuWorks, which is the core of the toolpaths. So it's pretty exciting to have the primary puzzle pieces we need to pull together to redefine the life that a part goes through from being a cartoon to being in the physical reality. So it's kind of exciting. It's also terrifying to know that shame on me if I screw it up, because we have everything we need. We have the team that's capable of putting these puzzle pieces together. We have access to the puzzle pieces. And today we have the financial partners to make it happen. It's both exciting, humbling, and terrifying at the same time, I guess.
Of course, I'm biased a little bit, but I feel like this is the first time. I mean, and this is why I wanted to join Toolpath. This is the first time I've really seen a company that has a shot at bringing this whole buzzword of closed loop automation, closed loop manufacturing to the real world. First part of that obviously is having the puzzle pieces, like Al mentioned. And the other part is just sort of the expertise and, I mean, I guess what we call internally go to market, which is like, how do you actually introduce a product where you're introducing it in stages that a shop can actually adopt incrementally? So much of this automation that has been, oh, we're doing this, we're selling you the world, we're going to create automated factories. That stuff's really hard. And so much of it, costs $1 million and your shop's down for 3 months and then it's buggy and you're paying all these consultants. And of course, from a technical standpoint, a lot of what's been done in like these fully automated factories, it's incredible, but it's not accessible to most machine shops because you can't just like shut down for that. And you need it to be flexible. And the Toolpath team with Al and Tim and everybody else has a really good sense on like, all right, how do we build a product? What was your term earlier today, Al? Not minimum viable product, minimum
Lovable.
lovable product where somebody can come in like on day one and get a lot of use out of this as the technology is still being built out. So like for Toolpath today, that's the estimating, right? The estimating is something where someone can throw it in, you get a go, no-go gauge. And it's really, really useful. And then now that user is along the journey with us, because we're still building, we got years and years of building. But the product is useful in these certain ways that are really impactful. I mean, the Chatter version of that is like, all right, what's the easiest feature to set up? Text messaging, right? I want to text when my machine goes down so it's not sitting idle. That's a very easy thing. And then we can bring shops in on that journey with us as as our offering gets bigger and bigger and more advanced. And then also anybody can join on throughout that process and incrementally adopt this. So it's just a whole new way to think about automating manufacturing that I really haven't seen any companies put the level of emphasis on it that we are at Toolpath.
But you said years and years of building. Couple of thoughts when you said that. First, every overnight success takes 10 years, and we're just at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's reassuring to me that I probably have the grayest hair on the team, and you're signing up for years and years of building, because you're absolutely right. But that point is, what's the core piece of value that we can over deliver on, so that the shops can use it, but we can expand from there. And it's already, I think, it doesn't take somebody crazy creative to see some of the puzzle pieces of today. The no-go gauges, do I have the tooling in my shop to machine this part? Now we layer in the chatter technology and the connectivity to the machine, and you can easily see, we'll kind of think like Uber. There's the idea of like, well, am I available? I've got a car that's the right size, but am I available right now? You can easily see a near-term world where we can say, well, I've got the tools, but not the availability. The machine's booked out for the next 3 weeks. So my reason no, there's another reason for a no. And we can continue to drive on that and over deliver on that. And if we do that well, the good news is the shops that are using our product are winning more of the right work and making more money, and we're partnered alongside of them so that we can grow together.
The flip side of that, so we asked what you're excited about. What are you nervous? What are you worried about? Al, you mentioned a little bit about we have all the pieces of the puzzle, but what is it still in the it's still in the bag, right? Like there's still a lot of things that we need to figure out. We could drown in opportunity. Is that something that you might be worried about?
Um, I think my worry's a little bit different. Uh, Scott on our team that helps make sure everybody's able to work work their best. He sent me a picture he saw, and he thought it kind of reflected the team we're building here, and I think it does. It said, "Build a team so strong you don't know who the leader is," and that is genuinely what we're trying to build here. But it's what's terrifying for me, because the more the strength of the team builds, the more people are betting their careers on joining us. Pete made a decision to not be a CEO, to dramatically reduce his sphere of influence and but be laser focused on the product. He bet his career on this. Many others have bet their career on this. So it's the thing that maybe worries me the most is I can take the I can take the bet for myself to go down this journey of building a platform, and it's a big swing. We say we're building a platform, right? We either do it or we don't. And to kind of feel the privilege and responsibility of people like Pete bet their businesses on this is the thing that's maybe weighs on me the most, but it
High
should.
pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the thing I told Al about that, we've been talking for a while, and I said, well, think about it. Like, if there's a team in the world that's going to do this right now, who is it? Like, if not us, then who? And we believe this is something that should exist and will exist. So, um, personally, I don't have that worry because I'm like, well, it has to happen. It must happen. So here we are.
Steve Blum at Autodesk would always say, expect to win. So we have to go into it and expect to win. I do genuinely believe if it's going to happen, we have a team that has the highest probability of making it happen.
Yeah. But let's see. You wanted my worries too, right, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you don't have any. Maybe you're just in the
No, I'll
honeymoon
seed Pete up
phase.
with some worries. I think there should be
Oh, no.
excitements and worries. Yeah, well, I mean, one of his excitements should be that he's got Tim and your team being go to market for the chatter stuff. That was something he did, but at the same time, you're letting go of something, and I would assume there's excitement and worry in that.
Well, with that one, that actually is super exciting to me. I mean, just in well, let's see. The timelines are funny, but this is being recorded right now, and we haven't announced this. But there are a few people that know, and already there's been three customers. Ben helped me with one. Tim and Paul helped me with the other two. And it's my life is like a dream now. Being able to provide the technical support on the chat, and we're not even like fully integrated yet. But I was like, oh my gosh, this team, like, I mean, Ben, you're a freaking rock star, man. But genuinely for the customers too, because running chatter so small and so lean has really had its downsides, just from a personal standpoint of just the amount of stress of juggling things, but then also from the customer perspective, if you're fighting for the attention, and like one guy has got like that information in his head, and now we have the ability to provide a lot better experience, and then also just like after chatter actually gets installed, keep following up, and you and your team creating all this like training material, and then personal hands-on with customers. That part's really, really exciting. I suppose one of my worries is trying to get a lot of this knowledge about chatter itself, was a system that Kat and I built together, out of our heads, and into this larger organization, which is, for me, like my background, I owned a machine shop right out of high school. And then I started Chatter and sold the machine shop. So I've never had a boss before. I've never had a big team before. So a lot of this is actually really, really new to me. And I've been pleasantly surprised so far that it's just having other people to rely on is just a total game changer.
Pete, I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Justin when I took this job. Never call me boss again. He
Mm,
said that once when I
all
took the
right,
job.
champ.
I was the boss. But it's my job to remove obstacles so you guys can do your best work. This whole thing is screwed if it boils down to me telling all of you what to do. You're all better at what you do than I am. So I don't like the term boss.
Okay.
What should we call you?
I will approve your expense reports.
Okay, good. I like that.
Actually, Pete, if you and I want to talk a little bit about that, I had the privilege to go to John Saunders Machine Works, and basically fly blind, trying to figure out how to set up Chatter. And it was really eye opening to me because, luckily I had Pete with me, but going in and configuring machines for Chatter, I was actually pleasantly surprised. On some machines, it was an absolute breeze, and on others there were maybe some obstacles, but it's given me a sensitivity on to how, like, how do we bring content to you, our customers, and people that are adopting Chatter in a way that's understandable and relatable. And so it was definitely very, like, eye opening, but it was also great having you. Like, I think I called you up 5 or 6 times FaceTime. I'm like, hey Pete, what do I do? But
Yeah.
if you wanna speak to that too, I know John was really appreciative of that, and he's excited about what Chatter is gonna do for his business.
Yeah. Um, from the start, actually, the reason I started Chatter was, I mean, partially just the feature set on these machine monitoring solutions, which I hate that term. That's why we call it connectivity. But the other part was just the complexity of the integration, and actually just like the sales process was insane. You would have to go and say, hey, I want this, piece of software. And then it's like, okay, do you have this connector? You need to go to this guy and get this MT Connect connector. And then you got to go to this machine tool builder and get this option. And it's just this like, it's like a maze trying to get, and then also like, let's say you've got a FANUC machine, a Haas machine, and an Akuma, like they're all running these different protocols and stuff. And in starting Chatter, one of the big things that I wanted to do is get it all kind of on one platform. Like you shouldn't have one thing for your brother machines and another for your Haas machines. They should all work on the same box, like just one box per shop, right? Not one special box per machine, just one box per shop on the network. And so we get around a lot of the complication, but one of the things that's still a bit of a struggle is actually, educating on the network side of the machine itself. How do you enable the MT Connect connector? Like on the Haas, you called me up and asked about the Haas, and that's easy. It's one setting. Just set setting 143 to 5051, and you're good. But the reality of it is most people don't spend their days screwing around with, network settings in Haas machines. I mean, I do because that's my job. But so um, so yeah, I mean, it was. I'm glad that you were able, since you're going to be making the content, that you were able to be out there and you can actually see this now. You're like, oh, like this was confusing to me. I got it explained. Let's take this like knowledge I had to call Pete for, and let's embed this into a video. Let's embed this into a support doc. Like let's make sure we have all these little nuances of this, or like even on the Williman, right? We have to jump this connector because the data server doesn't have focus, but the embedded port does, right? Which I didn't believe until I saw it. I was like, this is insane. Like, all these machines are like really different. So as we have a bigger team that's working with more people and touching all these different machines, it's going to be really good to build out that knowledge base that's not that normal rat race of like, okay, you got to call this guy and he's got to ask this guy. Like just a few days ago, I was trying to figure out how to take a screenshot on a brother machine, and I had to call 3 different people, and 3 different people gave me 3 different answers. And then I finally got one guy who asked his apps guy, and then we got the right answer finally. Um, but like all that knowledge that is like just in all these different places, I'm really excited. I think Toolpath has a culture of sharing. with the community, and so does Chatter and like our open source stuff that we do. So I think it's a really good fit in that way that we're not only going to share stuff that's just pertinent to like the specific connectivity of the machine. Um, we're kind of going to be building out this de facto knowledge base on like really like everything machine
Yeah.
connectivity and automation.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. You're absolutely right, Pete. Maybe this is a little Easter egg for the astute listener. But Ben, today you released a video for Pre-Tool, which is a good example of what we've had to do on the Toolpath. I don't want to say side of things because we're working to make this one platform, but for Toolpath automation, the primary bottleneck is helping people clean up their tool libraries. So we've gone about building utilities and education necessary to help you clean up your tool library. The same needs to be true on the machine connectivity side of things. The primary bottleneck will be helping people connect their machines. We will invest the time and effort and resources to help them do that. If you choose to connect your machine with not our software, well, then I guess we didn't build the best software and we don't deserve to win your business. But either way, we'll promote the knowledge needed to connect machines.
Let's talk about the future. What does this look like? If it's no, I'm going to say when we succeed, what does this look like in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years? And it doesn't have to be super granular, but what could this mean for the industry and for Toolpath? And
What could this mean? I guess it's my job to have a
Yeah.
vision of that, isn't it? I'm always I always find on one hand, like I need to have a bold vision, and I do, and on the other hand, I feel timid sharing it. But either way, I should just go for it, shouldn't I? Um, if you think of what this means in 1 year, I would hope you're using all one shared experience. You log into one system and you have access to all of the data in one place. Over the course of the year, you'll probably have shared logins between Chatter and Toolpath. I'm excited about the fact that the teams are so small that pulling it together quickly is far more achievable than when teams are large. But if we look beyond a year or two, to me, we're helping shops win the work that they're good at. I was just at CJ's shop this week. He runs a phenomenal business. He's able to keep buying Willermans because he knows what he's good at. He knows what to say yes to, and he knows what to say no to. So to me, we've built a platform that helps them automate that process and focus on winning the best work so that many shops that are acting like the handyman of 40 years ago can become focused and become specialists and win the work that makes the most sense to them. And I think there's a lot of pieces that we can solve when we connect a full understanding of the shop and a full understanding of the programming process. I think we'll have tied together a Toolpath and kernel based on our partnership with ModuleWorks with a brain that automates selections and a nervous system that knows what's going on the shop floor with the machine tools, so that the machinist is thinking about navigation, not stick and rudder. And what to me is navigation in the world of automated manufacturing, it more has to do with having the conversations you need to do with engineers to get the right tolerance data. And instead of just kind of doing it intuitively and adding a tooth out stock to leave on a bore, the system is more aligned to helping you influence the system based on tolerance and helping you really understand your business so that you're focused on the things you're good at, and the shop next door can win work on the focus on the stuff that they're good at.
Yeah, that's
I
something
don't know if
that
that was a direct answer or
no, it's a
that's
good
great.
answer. It's to add to that, it's kind of always frustrated me, and I'm sure you've heard some of this ranting, Al, from me, but like these one size fits all is not going to be the solution for our industry. Like you need the data feedback loop because like, do we want to create commodity shops or do we want to supercharge shops that are really good at the things they're good at? Like even, amongst my group of friends who are shop owners, they send work to each other. And it's not like just like a capacity routing thing. It's like, oh, this is a part that this guy would be great at. I'm going to sub it out to him. And then they all send work between each other because different shops have different specialties, and one of the unique things about Toolpath is it's not one of those, it's not this idea that, okay, we came in here and we measured, the best possible parameters on our fancy machine, and we optimized your feed rate down to 0.02 inches per minute accuracy, and you got like these weird like numbers. Like we're working on these practical solutions that actually, like, does an extra 2 inches a minute matter? I mean, if you're trying to dial in like a part, for like chatter issues or something, sure, like maybe, but in general, for the majority of, like, that's something that actually takes the machinist skill that we want to capture. That's like the navigation. How do we like get this really thin wall like just perfect? And we want to capture that stuff. But as far as like somebody sitting there and optimizing a feed rate, like, oh, can I, I'm at, I'm at 250 right now. Do you think I can get to 251 inches a minute? It's like, who cares? Like, I'm sorry. Um, um, but I think we're gonna do a lot of that. Those,
So you poked at something that inspired me in a conversation I didn't think I'd say publicly, but I'll do it anyway. To me, what's going to happen over the course of the next 2 years, I believe that the battle lines are being drawn in the sand for how people think about going about this problem. The reality is the technology has matured for digital manufacturing over the last 20 to 40 years. It's largely all solved problems. And the challenge is to pull the technology together. And when we do that, what are we going to do? We're going to increase human productivity in CNC machining. Today, about 2 million CNC programmers run about 6 million machines. So you could say the ratio of machines to humans is about 3 to 1. And so where to me the lines in the sand, if you believe that we're going to change that ratio from 3 to 1 to 10 to 1 or 20 to 1, there's two types of companies that could form. One type of company says, I sell parts and I'm going to build the software, and you can think of some names. Maybe we call some out or we don't. But some companies are in the business of making parts, and a very, 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 very large company is going to end up making all the parts. And what you're poking at, Pete, is this idea of like an ecosystem. The other bet would be something more like Uber. Many entrepreneurs that are motivated to go get stuff done are going to, as a collective, produce far more. And I'd say Toolpath as an organization, we believe we're going to build the tools to allow many shops to work in harmony together, as opposed to one major shop. And I think that when you do that and you're willing to kind of make yourself irrelevant and say that somebody else is going to get that next ride, it's okay. It's kind of the same thing that you're going through, Pete, right? You gave up needing to do go to market, and that's freed you up to do more. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. But that's the piece that I think is going to be starting to play out over time. And both answers could end up being true. Some large shops, Send Cut Send, I think, is a great example of a large shop that's focused in on cutting. But that doesn't mean there's not a whole lot of other things that can't happen around it. But it's just, to me, it's very exciting to think about what emerges in terms of CNC machining as this automation evolves. Did it make sense? And I think the reason I got there is that's where the connectivity that Pete has built with Chatter is so important to our strategy, that we can't just produce automated speeds and feeds that work in a laboratory of known machines. We have to build a system that works in many different scenarios, because we're building a system that allows 100,000 individual shops to increase their productivity, not one shop to have 100,000 machines. Did I go too far on a tangent?
No, that's good. I mean, that's the vision overall. And I think it's fun that we're sharing this, because when we get stuck up in the business side of things, like, that's all like behind closed doors. And like when I was getting into software, I'm just a machinist, right? Like the software world is new to me. I mean, it still is, really. But
Me too.
but like learning all these things about like these different visions for the industry at a high level and where these companies are going, a lot of those conversations happen behind closed doors. So it's kind of fun to share, like, publicly, sort of how we're thinking about the industry. overall. As far as the industry in 10 years, um, like that vision of just as we have it today, these specialized shops who are really good at one thing, um, but there's barriers. There's barriers in communication. There's barriers in routing. And one of the big barriers is, and one thing like Toolpath can do a great job of, is just like, hey, like I'm gonna lose my shirt on this part, like if I make it, but I only find out after I accepted the PO, and I'm screwed. So just like taking those things and just making them a near non-issue, and then being able to route things between shops better and let shops collaborate as well with, each one having their unique version of Toolpath. Like Toolpath is not a monolith. Toolpath is, within your shop, it knows your shop's information for you. You know, it's contained to your shop, and it works for you. So I think that's really cool. I mean, I'll take a more aggressive vision just on the product level because Al talked about the
Well,
sort of the
if you're
vision
head
for
of
the
product,
industry.
that's
Oh
your
yeah,
job.
yeah.
You're
So I'm
supposed to be
allowed to
better at
now.
this
Okay,
than
cool.
me.
That's great. I mean, the Toolpath logo after the rebrand is a cycle start button, right? That was before my time, so I don't get to take credit for that. But within that mindset, and then thinking about how chatter works too, now that we have the connectivity layer of actually transferring the data to the machines, seeing what's happening, and then being able to make modifications on the cam side, um, I see shops getting more and more automated and closer to step file to just part being run on the machine with minimal human in the loop. Now, I say that with like a million asterisks on it. Because I every time I hear somebody say this on a podcast or whatever, I'm like, you don't know how hard machining is. Like, blah blah blah. There's like all these issues. Well, who's gonna do the tools and who's gonna do this and and I agree with all that. I wouldn't have joined Toolpath if this wasn't a team of people who actually make parts and have made parts for years and years and years and understand these challenges. There's this term I like to throw around, the tech bro savior complex. I see this in companies where it's just you come in and you're like, I want to start a startup, right? And then you're like researching industries. You're like manufacturing. Okay, that's hot. It's a big industry, big market size. Oh, look at this. These people are idiots, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to use my big computer guy brain, and I'm going to tell them how to run a shop. Um, I would not join a company like that. And Toolpath is the absolute like opposite of that. Um, I think most people on the
I'm
team
I'm glad
actively make parts.
I'm glad you came full circle on that, Pete, because it's this balance of having a vision that we genuinely believe that we can solve and betting our careers on solving it without believing our own BS about how far along
Yeah,
we are. So like
exactly.
I properly described this of having access to the puzzle pieces and having access to the puzzle makers, but we have not built the puzzle yet. We still have to finish building the puzzle.
Yeah.
Is there
Back then,
anything else?
you ended up talking to us, but I mean, what was it, a year ago when I joined Toolpath? Um, you were doing Xometry work for Toolpath, and I said, we are not a job shop. We're not a job shop, and we're not a job shop. Why don't you go do social media? And obviously you've had a bit of a journey here, but what's exciting for you? What's terrifying for you? What's success for you?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I was just trying to be like the interviewer, but what's exciting for me is the reason that I joined Toolpath. I actually had the privilege of showing you Toolpath, and I had just started like a month prior. And I remember kind of seeing that sparkle in your eye, which was cool. But it was the same reason that I joined Toolpath. It was first and foremost the team. I got firsthand experience of sitting down with everybody. Justin offered me this job, and I was like, I'm not too sure about this. And he's like, well, just come meet the team. We're all getting together. And I mean, that was like, that sold it because my experience was he sent me his address. I walk up his driveway and I see all these software engineers huddled around a Sile X7, like a CNC machine, and they're all just trying to figure out how to, how to machine this geometry part that they took that's basically like due tomorrow, and they're all trying to post G code, straight from Toolpath. And I was like, oh, this isn't like gimmicky at all. This is like they're trying to like solve real stuff. And so yeah, maybe I had that hesitation of what'd you call that? That tech bro
Yeah,
term.
tech
Yeah.
bro savior complex.
And then it was like, no, this team is so special and everybody's so driven. And I'm like, I want to be a part of it. And then I could see the other side of like how if and when we are successful, how game changing this is for the industry, how game changing it is for guys that are in their shop, which I have an X7 in my shop, and how game changing it is for just the little guys too, like making uh parts on geometry and smaller, like high mix low volume stuff. And so that was super exciting. What I'm excited about with Chatter and Toolpath joining is, I mean, it's probably overused, but that closed loop, right? I used to build CNC machines and I would use open loop stepper motors. And man, if it like ran into something, it would just keep going and going and going. And when you start adding a closed loop and a feedback to the system, that's when magic happens, right? So, and that's what we've talked about this whole podcast. So that's why I'm
It's
excited.
so cool.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a way to bring this podcast home. But when you were saying that the closed loop is when the magic happened with the stepper motor, Carl Bass, who's a personal mentor of mine, he kind of said the same thing. He'd worked on graphics card drivers back in the day, and the magic happened when they closed the loop. I can't even predict all the magic that's going to happen when we close the loop between the software and the machine, but I know that it's going to unlock a new level of magic. The other thing you were saying is like how exciting it is for the industry. For me, it almost gives me like goosebumps of excitement when I think about it. But we're in another industrial revolution, and the last industrial revolution automated muscle power, and in many ways it shifted the demand for high skilled humans from the blue collar to the white collar, and the real good jobs ended up in the white collar. This industrial revolution is automating brain power, and it's going to I believe it's going to shift the demand for high skilled, high paid humans back to the tactile world, the world where you can, you understand what's going on around you. If we automate, so you just paint a bit of a picture, but if we automate the stick and rudder of CAM, then the important skill sets that are necessary is somebody understanding what it means to press a bearing into a bearing bore and understanding tolerance data. And you get to spend more time thinking about that than thinking about picking a contour and setting a chain. And so it's the grease monkeys, if you will, that understand how things go together, that are far more critical in this world of automating. When the irony is, many might believe that if I automate away manufacturing, then I've freed myself up to do it. It's the same thing as a navigator saying, if I automated the pilot, then I become the pilot. No, when the pilot automated themselves, they became the navigator.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's pretty exciting when what we get to do for our friends and colleagues in this manufacturing industry if we pull it off.
Yeah, and this was before Chatter was even a thing, right? I was just excited about what Toolpath could bring to the industry when I heard Chatter. We're onboarding Pete as product and then also getting Chatter with it. I mean, that's just like that was icing on the cake for me. So
We're just getting started, Ben.
I know it's been so fun. I told everybody at IMTS, I was like, hey, I joined Toolpath before it was cool. So my reservations, I don't really have any like major ones. I think I kind of revealed it when I was probing you out, was just, we have a lot of puzzle pieces and you've mentioned it before, like drowning in opportunity.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a double-edged sword, right? So we've got all this opportunity, we've got all these things we can do. We can automate this, we can close the loop here. It's like, what do we focus on now that's attainable, like what Pete was talking about, and then start to build on instead of just going like, straight for straight for it.
I should. You're poking at all my worries, Ben, and you're poking at all my excitements too. But it's a very smart person told me more startups die from drowning and starvation. And it's true. Us acquiring Chatter pretty much broadcast what our intent is. So you might as well kind of say it, and we've talked about it. Our intent is to build the platform to pull these puzzle pieces together. So we almost don't have the luxury of staying laser focused on a point corner of the industry. But to me, it's our opportunity too. I spent enough time leading large teams and knowing the challenges of pulling large teams together was very difficult. And so I feel like making this shift for how it all works is far less possible with a larger team. But the fear of drowning with a small team is equally terrifying, especially given that it's more likely to drown than starve. So it's what we're going for. We've lined it up to go for it, and many people bet their careers to join me on it. It's whew. You can't leave now though, Pete. You already signed.
Well, I'm happy to bet my career on this. It truly is exciting. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be joining this if I didn't believe in it, and if I didn't believe this were the right team and the right timing. Timing is everything. I think the industry's in a spot where, we're ready for something new. Everybody's itching for something new. Um, and there's a lot of these bottlenecks that we can just hit and do it incrementally, have the broad vision. Where are we in 10 years? What do we want to see the industry look like in 10 years? And then deliver things week by week, really. I mean, that's about the cadence at Toolpath, if not faster, that eventually culminate in this future vision that, I mean, I started Chatter to build stuff that I wish existed, right? And now we're just doing even more of that for both ourselves and for our friends.
Do you guys have anything else you want to share? Otherwise, we will wrap this podcast up.
Yeah, I guess I can just kind of close with this. It's exciting for us, and maybe if somebody listening got inspired by what we're doing, I want to make sure that we're not over promising where we're at today. I'd say it's a bold vision. We've got a lot of the puzzle pieces in place at IMTS. We said, let's define the future of AI for CNC together. We'd love to have you on the journey with us together, but also want to make sure we're not over communicating how far along we are. I suppose the benefits is anybody that joins now will see their fingerprints on the product as we take their input and build it. But yeah, for anybody that made it this far in the podcast, thanks for sticking around.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Pete and Al, for joining our second episode of Chips and Tips. It's been really fun talking to you guys, and I'm excited to see where this all goes. So thanks for your time, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.